Sitting in the hallway. So good to see you. Come on in. It's 4 o'clock. We are starting. It's our final day. So it's time to rock. Money don't drive me. I drive my money. Like what you see, yeah. How are you doing, Frege? Everything's not for everyone. Hi, come on in. Welcome, ladies. Welcome, ladies. Already. Welcome. Can you put down your name? Let me see you. Where you coming from? We are live. Be yourself. Thank you. It's the grand finale. Thank you. Money don't drive me, I drive my money. Wow, what a song by Simi. He says, money doesn't drive me, I drive my money. Isn't it surprising? Because today we are even going to have a guest that will speak to us after this guest on my money on my mind, you know. Oh, so welcome, ladies. How are you doing? Esther, you're welcome. Freke, I see you. Everybody, welcome. Those of us, you know what? There are some people that must have still been preparing. So if you are here, just put a call to your sister and tell them it is time. You better come over. We are starting. And you know, I always believe that God does works in a mysterious way. The footsteps of the Lord are really ordered by God. Because our first speaker today was supposed to be the first speaker on the beginning of the program. That's on Friday. But for some reason, she was stopped at the airport. They kept changing the flight schedule. So she had to call me really upset last minute and said, sis, I don't know. I don't think I can be able to make it. And, you know, I almost panicked. But then I remember that this program is not mine. It has been ordered by God. You know, I'm a big God person. I call him Papa. So I realized that Papa was in the mix. And so today, one of our guest speaker also fell really ill, so she can't make it. That's Patience Karu. She was going to talk about money, which will still have her. And I just realized, whoa, God ordained this thing so that Dr. Louisa, man, I don't think this conference would have been complete without Dr. Louisa. Look, ladies, if you are here, just get a bottle of water. That's what get water, because this lady is going to make you thirsty. She's going to, I call her my push. I met her several years ago. I had all these dreams. I had like fine wine in mind. I had Tabitha, but they were all in the book. They were all in my head and in my book. But sometimes God just brings somebody into your life. It's not as if you don't have the ideas. You have the ideas, but you don't have the courage to move. Okay? So sometimes God just brings somebody that will help and push you. You need a push. Every woman needs a push. That's why you need to get this book, okay? Today is the last day for this. If you do not have this book, you're attending this conference, and you have not pre-ordered this book for 3,005, because after today is going to be 5,000. Please, I'm going to put my number. Send me a text. Let me get you the details. 6978. Okay, that's my number, because you have to get this book. When you get this book, you understand what I mean by push and what Dr. Louisa means to me. Get it for 3,500. This book is powerful. It has my experiences inside. It has my journey. It has the 4 women in the Bible that are, for the first time, the Holy Spirit has really used me to break them down. You know, you must have heard of Esther, the woman with the issue of blood, but I can guarantee you that there are so many lessons that you did not know could come from these women. So if these women could rise, then you can rise. So pre-order your book. My WhatsApp is here. Send me a WhatsApp. All right, get down the number And let me tell you how to pre-order this book for 3 5 today. Get it for yourself, get it for your sister. Back to Dr. Louisa. Dr. Louisa is going to come here to talk to us about your voice, your power. Your voice, your power. Now, this topic is very timely because when you leave here with the messages that you've heard for the past 2 days, you are going to deal with voices. And when I mean voices, I mean your inner voice and your outer voice. Your inner voice is the voice of your mind that will be telling you, are you sure you can rise? Are you sure you can forgive him? Are you sure these things will not repeat itself? Are you able? And so you also have the outer voice of people that will be telling you, how leave all these things that you hear, all these motivational speaker. They want you to remain where you are. And these are voices. So one of the things you should know is that you have to match a voice with a voice. When Naomi said to Esther, don't go with me, go back to where you came from, because I will not be able to bear sons that will marry you. I want you all to just go back. Don't come with me. You know, the Bible says that one lady wept, hugged her, and went back, and we never heard of her again. But you see, when voices come, your voice, your inner voice, your outer voice, you have to match it with a voice. And she matched and said, don't tell me to go back to my place of pain. Where you go, I'll go. I have a future. I know where I'm going. Those people that you're calling strangers, they'll be my people. The God that you serve will be my God. I will settle there. I'll live there. She began to use her voice to match the outer voice of discouragement. So today, this lady is going to come and tell us the power that lies within you. There is a Tabitha inside of you, the spirit that causes you to speak. Some of us, our Tabitha has been silenced and we no longer have a voice. We have the voice of grief. They have the voice of pain. It has drowned us. The voice of discouragement has drowned us, and we no longer can be that person with audacity. Today, Dr. Louisa is going to come here and she's going to release your voice. Many of us have met her. Many of us have heard from her. She's no stranger to the Like Fine Wine community and all this program. So without much further ado, because I have to leave the floor, I am ready. I am ready with my pen and paper. I'm going to bring the very phenomenal woman. I call her the woman of authority. She's my push. She's one lady that has been, she's born to raise women. She has been born. Everybody has a purpose, but this one was sent here and established by God on earth for women to raise women. So get your notepad ready. I can guarantee you that you're about to hear a voice that will release your Tabitha to arise. Hi, Dr. Louisa, you're welcome. Dr. Louisa, you are live, you're welcome.
I am
Hi.
so excited, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. It's always a party when I connect with my sisters. So, what just happened? Lost me again. Okay, good. Welcome, everyone. It's going to be a fantastic evening or afternoon. I don't know where you're joining us from, but I am so excited to be here this afternoon. Um, Coach Heidi is my sister, and there's just so many things that we should talk about. First of all, it's so emotional for me to be here. I'm grateful to God that I'm here in this program. We've worked really, really hard, and she's worked, oh my goodness, just to create this program, the community. It's been amazing. There's so much that is lined up for today. So I'm just going to make sure that we try to stay on time. But listen, I'm going to promise you one thing, that you will not go back the same. That's what I'm going to promise you. So I need your concentration. I need your focus. I need your ear. I need your heart. I need you to lean in. I need you to invite everyone that needs this message. If there's anyone around you who has been operating in the level of smallness, I want you to bring that woman in. You don't want to be here alone. I do not want you to keep me as your best kept secret. So bring all the ladies. I am. I am Dr. Louisa Akaiso. I am her. I am a woman. I am a voice. I am a leader. I am a little girl from Nigeria. In fact, the name of my village is Eket, not Eket. My people call it Eket. I am who I am before the foundation of the earth. And I had to find my voice for over 40 years to understand what kind of voice that I really am. I'm going to encourage you this afternoon that I did not just become this woman leader, not just for my family, my community, but to help demystify women in leadership globally. And so permit me to say, I am a voice that creates transformation. And because I'm sitting right in front of you for the next 60 minutes, it's important for me to show you that you are a voice. You have substance, and your voice is your power to create change in our world. So this is not that kind of conference that you're going to come because you have nothing to do. It's just kind of like Sunday afternoon and back from church and just kind of chilling and eating suya. This is that conference that you come with all seriousness, expecting your life to be transformed. Tabitha, arise. First of all, I'm going to say a big thank you to Coach Heidi for the privilege to speak with her community. I don't take it for granted. She has so many people that she would have brought here. I also want to celebrate all of the great speakers, both women and men. Richard was here pouring into us in the whole, last 2 days, and today is the third day. There is something that I believe that God is partnering with women in this period. And you would have noticed the rise of alpha females and future forward females. I also want to take a moment to celebrate my family, my lovely husband, kids, my sister, and of course, all of the lovely ladies who are here or who will be joining us later or watching this on replay. I want to say welcome. So if you haven't been in this conference, sis, where have you been? Tabitha, arise. My voice, my power. When I think about Tabitha is a command. Tabitha to me means roar. Tabitha means shine. Let the king inside of you arise. What does Tabitha mean to you? Have you taken the pain to check out the story of Tabitha? And you might have wondered, why are we so pumped up about this lady? I put a post on my page about Nwaneka. And Nwaneka is an interesting story. And that's very typical of a lot of us sometimes we come from very dysfunctional backgrounds and conditioning. And she was trying to find life in Lagos. But the person that I really loved the most was her sister, Lolo. She said, "Who do you think you are? No one has ever done this in this family. How dare you go to Lagos to get a job? Your father's house is waiting for you." Now, let's even leave Monica for a minute and get back to my story. I grew up in a polygamous family, a condition or a polygamous family is where you have one man, 2 wives, one man, 5 wives. In my case, it was 2. And while I grew up, My mom had just girls. So, of course, my voice was taken from me. First thing is, she wasn't the first wife. And the second thing, she had only girls. Can you imagine? So, I could not even say anything because my mom was struggling too. No one heard her voice. Her voice wasn't important. And then at some point, she became divorced. That was even worse. And so every time that I was uncomfortable with something and I wanted to talk, my mom said, shh. And I'm thinking, for how long am I going to do this? To cut the long story short, my mom became my best friend. And you know what? In 2016, she passed. She died. And when this happened, I remember sitting in the middle of the night and I'm like, I put my hand on my head. If you're from my part of the world, I would have said, Woyo, what is going to happen to me? This is my best friend. How many of you here understand when your mom is your best friend and death takes her away? Listen, sis. It is something that is easier to experience than to explain. I was in a lot of pain. I didn't even know, was I supposed to cry? How am I supposed to cry? How am I supposed to react? At this time, I had been signed on to speak in a women's conference in Johannesburg. So I was in between, I cannot make it. I don't think I can go. So guess what happened? I sent a mail to the organizers. I said, you know what? I don't think I can make it to this conference. And the organizer sent me a mail back and he said, no, can you hear me, guys? If you can hear me, please let me know.
I hear you. You froze for a while, but you're back.
Okay, okay. I'm so sorry. And so I remembered it was a very difficult time for me. And that was when I had to make a decision that was so hard. And I'm thinking, I've accepted to speak at this conference. The funeral is way like a couple of months later. How do I do this in Africa? My family is going to disown me. Are you kidding? Your mom hasn't been buried and you want to go and speak in South Africa? No way. But that's why it's so important to have the right people behind you. I remember having a chat with my sister, and she said, what would mom have wanted? I said, well, that's so true. Mom would expect that I should go. Okay, so what am I going to do? I'll go to the store and grab a couple of black or dark blue clothes and travel with me to South Africa. And I remember I got on the plane and I cried from the beginning of the trip until I arrived for 19 hours. I was crying. I did not understand why I was crying. I mean, everybody sitting around me kind of looking at me like, what's going on? And when I arrived in South Africa, I kept asking myself questions like, why did I have to go? I felt so guilty. I shouldn't have. Why did I get on this plane for so long? And when I arrived in South Africa, I was picked up, checked into the hotel. I went to bed because the next day was going to be busy. And at about 3 a.m., I heard my phone in the room ringing. And I'm thinking, what? I don't know anyone in South Africa. How can my phone be ringing? And it kept ringing. The next thing I heard a knock on the door at 3 a.m. I thought, oh my goodness. Hey, the enemies of my father's house are here to kill me. What am I going to do? Why did I travel? I started imagining all kinds of things. So I picked up the phone. I called my husband and I said to him, the phone is ringing. It's 3 a.m. I don't know what's going on. And he said, calm down. Let's call the reception. And he asked them, who is knocking on Louisa's door? Oh, I'm so sorry. There's a lady here who is pregnant. And she was just about to check out of the hotel. And she said she had to see her because she saw the billboard and she saw her photo on the billboard. And I'm thinking, excuse me, is this Nollywood? I don't know anyone in South Africa. How could she have seen me on the billboard? Like, hello? And I heard the lady in the background. She said, please, I would love to see you, Mara. I'm thinking, what's going on? And they said, please, can you just talk to her? And she came on the phone. And she said, please, Dr. Louisa, I have heard about you and I just saw you on the billboard. I'm about to check out. I'm sorry that it's 3 a.m. Please, can I just meet with you and we can exchange details and I can get to talk to you later? I was so afraid. So I let my husband on the phone. I said, listen, you need to listen because I don't know. I'm Nigerian. And at the time, there was so much happening in South Africa. I'm thinking someone is going to kill me here. And the lady said, can I come to the door of your room? I'm like, come to the door of my room? Oh, well, because I heard she was heavily pregnant. I said, you can come. And she got to the door, knocked the door, and I opened the door. And there was this lady with this huge belly of not less than 8 months. And she started weeping. And literally, she wanted to go on her knees. And she said, thank you so much for giving me a chance. I've been trying so hard to connect with you. I know it's so late. Can I just take your number? My husband is waiting downstairs. And I said, what is the problem? And she whispered in my ear, I'm in an abusive relationship. I was forced into this marriage. I really don't want to be here. I'm just waiting to have the baby and run away. I don't know what I'm going to do. Please take my number. And right then, I realized that this lady was the reason why I had to be in South Africa. If I did not make it to South Africa, God knows what would have happened to this lady. And so after that, I got to work with her for years, and the rest is history. I have struggled all my life to find my voice. My question for you is, I know you might be thinking, but I have a voice. What's she even talking about? Now, the point is not if you have a voice or not. The question is, do you want to affect change using your voice? Or do you want to be part of a conglomeration of nuisance or mediocrity just hanging around? Or do you want to be in a company of ships and just screaming blah, blah, blah without making a difference? Or are you suffering from what I call crabingitis? Working with crabs where you pull each other down every single time you're trying to make a move. And you're giving excuses because of what you went through. You're giving excuses because of things that have happened to you. You're giving excuses every single day instead of using your voice to save someone's life. Tabitha was a woman just like you. She lived, she loved, she faced the same challenges that we face. She did not use any excuse of, oh, if only I had a godfather. I know what I can do. Some of us have a godfather. And instead of treating your godfather as an opportunity or a God-given access, you're more concerned with taking selfies and putting it on Facebook. The Bible says that Tabitha cared for the sick, cared for widows. She amplified her voice to effect change. Tabitha was not on Facebook scrolling and doing TikTok videos. She wasn't on the phone for endless hours gossiping. She was engaged in community advocacy. How many people in a 5-mile radius of where you live know what you do? How many times have you known what is right, but chose what was wrong. We are constantly saying, I wish I could do this. I wish I could do that. But what happened to the one that you could do? Are you showing up being the only option? Are you saturating that field where you found yourself? Are you the best at what you do? Because if I have an option, why would I deal with a mediocre? Why would I deal with an average? Imagine that widows and the people in the community went out to look for Peter. And they said, come back to see Sister Tabitha. Why? Tabitha was visible. Her voice was loud. She was strategically positioned. You have the capacity, but no one even knows. You have the capacity, but you're not even using it. You have some skills, but you never think about being the best at what you do. Most of the time, we're constantly thinking about how to go to school and then get married and get pregnant and have kids. I'm not saying that all of that is important. And if you're in Africa, you're thinking about the name change or the titles, Mama David, Mama Eno. Sometimes we have all these dreams, but we are not ready to step in and use our voice to create change. Recently, I was in Rwanda, and I learned a lot. That when women become agitated and sufficiently provoked, irrevocably persuaded, when a woman catches a burden and a vision that is the beginning of transformation, when a woman catches a burden and a vision that is the beginning of peace building, when a woman catches a burden and a vision that is the beginning of a world that is inclusive, that's the beginning of change. Every time a woman really takes her place in the society, change happens. Are you thinking of the fact that your greatest achievement is that you are a mother and a nurturer? But when you know that you are not just a mother to children or your children, but you are a mother to systems that don't work, you are a mother to social problems, you are a mother to those leaders that are not treating us the right way, then you begin to find solutions. When we understand that the kids that are being abused on the streets, you are a mother to them. When you understand that people who could not go to school because of period poverty or inadequate resources, you are a mother to them. When you understand that it's not just your biological children that you should take care of, and sometimes when your children are not doing well, you pray for them. So you would use your voice to pray for the things that are not working. What do you do when your child is discriminated or disfavored? You show up, you fight, you speak for them. Women must begin to pain and feel the hurt for the challenges in the world. When I was in Rwanda, I realized that women were ready to create change, but it came from a place of brokenness. Women in Rwanda had limited access to resources, limited access to power, to leadership, the goodness of the land, because Rwanda is such a patriarchal society. The women were not heard. Their voices were taken from them. Some of them were raped. I remember a story of a woman who was raped by 6 men. But right when the country broke apart, in the heat of the 90 Days Massacre, some of the men flee to be saved so that they are not killed. But guess what happened? The women knew they had no one to fight for them at that point. The women knew the children were left with them. The women knew that they had to build their community. The women knew that they had to strengthen the ones who were weak amongst them. And so what did they do? They knew it wasn't time for them to sit and look pretty. This was not the time for them to nag and complain to God and how has been wicked to them. This was not the time to go back to your father's house in the village, just like Wandeka's sister had advised her to do. This was not the time to be sober and feel bad or get comfortable in your smallness. At this point, the Tabitha in them arose, and they saw what had happened in their country as an opportunity to step into greatness. They got up, they used their voice, they rallied around the country. Some were raped even before that time. They dusted up their puyaya and moved. Some had lost their loved ones and their children. I can imagine them crying at night. I can imagine them saying, I don't want to do this again. But they got up in the morning and they went for the greater purpose. It wasn't about them. They did not care whether this is the same system that failed them. They did not care whether this was the same system that abused them. They did not care whether the opposition had caused them before. They got up and they used their voice. When a woman arises and takes her place as a mother and a nurturer, it begins the start of nation building, because women are good at navigating the orderliness of everyday life flawlessly without complaint. You are a woman. You find yourself cooking at one point, and before you finish, your kid says, oh, Mom, I need to finish my homework. It's due tomorrow. Just when you started the homework, another daughter shows up. Mom, my pad finished. My period just started. Mom, I need to buy pad. And then you realize the driver has gone for the day. And so what happens? You get up, you show up, you show out, and you show off. Why do you do this excellently? We have been gifted with intrinsic ability to nurture, to mother, to give birth, to put together. Your voice makes change happen, but you're not using your voice. So look at the story of Tabitha. Tabitha, who was around when so many women had no access to resources, no access to decision making. Despite the limitations of the time she lived, she took responsibility of caring for others. She was known for good works and acts of charity. She was a generous person who sowed for others. The Bible says she was probably a widow. She was also called a disciple of Jesus because she was part of the inner circle. And the interesting thing is that Tabitha lived in Joppa. Now, when you think about Joppa, Joppa is like living in Ikorabasi. So she was not a city girl. She became sick and died. Her friends sent for Peter. And guess what happened when Peter got there? He asked Tabitha's friends to leave. When I saw that part, I'm thinking there's certain people you need to let them go. There's certain people around you who are the cause of the problems that you have. You need to let them go, even when they seem that they're the best. And guess what happened? Peter prayed for her. Peter helped her to stand. Peter said, Tabitha, arise. And it was after Peter was done with all of that, then he invited her friends to come back. So I'm thinking that probably her friends were not even believers. I'm thinking if Peter was a prophet, he probably said, hey, these friends were the cause of her pain. So you might be sitting and carrying a dead baggage. So many of us are walking around with caskets, dead weight, the things that you should drop off, the things that are not serving you anymore, the things that are not serving your dream. How will we hear your voice? Tabitha, arise. Are those people that are around you, are they building you or are they breaking you? And that's a story for another day. Because you need to go back today and have a look at those around you. Are they building you or are they breaking you? Because if they are building you, they will help amplify your voice for change. So what do we do now? The first thing we're going to do is pain. Identify your pain. What is the pain that you're dealing with? What is that pain? When we look at the story of the women in Rwanda, some women were raped by 6 men until they lost their consciousness. Another one was gang raped in the village square and people were looking at her. And some of them were teenagers. Some became pregnant by the rapists. What is your pain? Why do you have to have a look at your pain? You must embrace reconciliation. Because when you look at your pain, there are people in there that you do not want to forgive. Sis, unforgiveness will shut down your voice. You have to let it go. Who hurt you in the past? I do not care. Let it go. You must be ready to reconcile. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Embrace your pain as a gift. The pain was meant for you to learn. The pain was meant to take you higher. The pain was there to increase you. The second thing that you have to do is position. Sometimes we're sitting on the bench of being a victim and we nag and nag and nag. Oh, you know, I came from a broken family, and you know, my father married 5 women, and you know, I was raped before, and you know, this had happened to me, and you know, this person discriminated me. Cut it off, sis. Position yourself as the expert of that pain. So move from being a victim to being a leader and an expert. What did the Rwandan women do? They moved from being victims to becoming leaders that were going to help their country emerge from chaos. They were there and they were ready to speak for the others who were still weak. There are people who have been through your pain or are still going through your pain. And because you've come through it, you have gotten the solution of the pain. So begin to use your voice to speak to others. Begin to use your voice to create awareness of this problem. Sis, there is no shame in the game. A good example is Coach ID. She used her personal story to create a community and used her voice and continuously uses her voice to unlock other women with the same pain point who are bound. And we looked at somebody else, our sister, Coach Joy, yesterday, who talked about helping people, helping women with her pain points. And now she's using her voice to deliver millions of women who are experiencing religious sexual shaming. We had an interesting conversation yesterday. So what is your pain? What have you been able to survive? It's time for you to step away from being a victim to becoming an expert. The third thing you have to do is passion. Let your passion drive you or fuel you to create change. Look at the story of the Rwandan women. Their raw experiences became a gift. It triggered determination and courage to help reconstruct their nation. They didn't get stuck in, oh my goodness, I was raped, I was killed, my sister was killed. And they had to cut it all off. Instead of dwelling on the pain, they were able to put more skin in the game. So what they did was, oh my goodness, I remember how this felt. No, I'm not going to let another woman go through that. I remember this pain that I went through. No way. I'm going to create an awareness. Oh, I'm going to start up something. I'm going to begin to talk about it. I'm going to begin to support others. That's what you should use your voice for. Your voice is your power. The fourth thing that you have to do can you hear me? Perfect. Sis, can you hear me? Please let me
You're
know
back.
if you can hear me.
Yeah, you're saying the fourth thing we have to do.
Public policy and public sphere. And so when you think about your pain, how are you able to amplify your voice loud enough to create a solution for your pain that will benefit the world at large? And how can you do this? Through an NGO, through creating a community like Fine Wine, through volunteering, through teaching other people, through advocacy, through sensitization that will bring about change and transformation. What is happening to you in Kenya is happening to someone in Nigeria. But how are you going to connect to the person in Nigeria? It is your story that will activate your tribe. But first of all, you have to embrace your pain. Then use your voice to create change. And the final thing that you would do is power, shared power. Shared power. When you think about the women in Rwanda, they were concerned about inclusivity, transparency. When women think about shared power, there is no competition. When we think about shared power, we are concerned about togetherness. We are concerned about unity. We are concerned about one mind. We are concerned about civility. What drives us is just love and support. And you see, when you look at the women in Rwanda, these women rose from their tragedy. They started getting to influence and impact because it wasn't just about their personal story or their personal ascension. It was about the story of their country's redemption. So when you think about shared power, you begin to move from me to we. You understand selflessness. You understand humility. Look at Tabitha. Tabitha got it right. She was humble. She loved people. She was a fashion designer, but she was making clothes for other people, not her children. Because you understand that when you win, when one person wins, we all win. It's not about you, but it's about humanity. So if your voice is at a 1%, you are ready and open to collaborate with someone who is at a 90 to get your voice heard, to get your impact felt, to increase your influence. And someone here might be asking, how are the women in Rwanda better than me today? Because they use their voice. Well, Rwanda is the only country in the world that has a mind-blowing record of 64% of their parliament as women. It doesn't happen anywhere. It started with a voice. Then it became their voice. Tabitha was not selfish. She cared for others. She was able to make clothes for other people. She didn't care about herself alone, but about the betterment of the community. And so when she died, people were troubled. Sis, ask yourself, if you were no more today, What are people going to say about you? Are you just going to be part of the number that they're going to forget and just have a 1 minute silence? I can imagine the community thinking, Iya Tabitha, her company is going to shut down. Well, we are finished. And then they went to bring the prophet to perform the miracle. Because they're like, listen, this is a woman who cooked for other people. This is a woman who took care of the less privileged. This is a woman who had the motherless baby center. This is a woman who loved us effortlessly. Her friends were so funky, but Peter didn't get distracted by that. He put them on the balcony. So sis, your environment is extremely important. Just like my mentor says, John Maxwell, you are a sum total of the 5 people that you spend your time with. If you're not spending your time with the right people, I'm afraid to say that you're going to lose your voice. So please ask yourself as we round up, what casket have you been carrying? What dead weight are you carrying? What lifeless company has been holding you down? What's that story that you continue to tell us like 55 times? It's time for you to release it on the balcony. Allow your inner king to roar. It's time for you to roar. It's time for you to shine. It's our time and it's our turn. There is no need for an excuse. It's time for you to use your voice to make a difference. When I saw the skulls and the clothes of those who had died in Rwanda, I realized that I had a responsibility to do more. Sis, what are you doing with your voice? What are you using your social media platform for? What are you telling people on the phone? What are you saying? What are you sharing? What are you doing with your pain? Did you just go through your pain and continue to be depressed? Are you walking around with pain and hatred and anger, and you have a headache or a migraine or high blood pressure because you're carrying so much dead weight? What's that casket that you've been carrying, sis? Have you been sleeping on your story for so long? And you're looking for the right time? You're looking for the skills, you're looking for the tools when God has blessed you with something to move with? I am your sister. And I'm here to let you know, sis, your voice is your power. Tabitha, get up. Tabitha, arise. Do not let anything hold you down. Beginning from today, you have all that it takes. You do not need any validation from people who are not even validated themselves. Tabitha, arise. It's time for you to use your voice. The world is waiting for that message. That which you have come through, it's time for you to unlock other women who are bound. Tabitha, arise. Thank you so much, sis.
Lord, hi, woo! I said it, I knew it, you know. You know, when you just have a knowing that it's going to be powerful. Thank you so much,
Sis, can
man.
you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Am I being heard?
Hello?
Can you hear me? If you are hearing
If
me,
you have
please
any
say.
questions, please ask your questions. It looks like we lost C for a minute. If you have questions, please put them in the comment box. I am ready to take the questions as we go along. Please type your questions in the comment box. It looks like we lost Coach Ida for a minute. Can you hear me, sis?
Yes, I can. I can hear you. I can hear you. Hello.
Okay. Please comment. Cut it all off. If you can hear me. If you can hear me, please comment. I'm not sure what's going on, but it's freezing.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Hi, can you
Okay.
hear me?
So
Am I
just give
being
her a
seen?
moment. She's coming back up right now. Sis,
Okay.
I don't seem to hear you, but I
Okay.
want to believe that you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Okay. Wonderful, you're here. Perfect.
Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, perfect. I was just about calling you. Thank you so much. Okay, yes, now everybody can hear me. Uh oh my goodness, that was, as you were talking, I was sitting down here and thinking of the women in Rwanda. And I'm saying to myself, if those
Okay.
women could rise up, then we can. Now, there are two women in the Bible that I love Bible stories. Sister, you know that I love Bible story. And you know why this book Tabitha Arise centers on some characters in the Bible was that they lived in a time that there was so much challenges. There was no microwave. They weren't heard. These are people that were not even allowed to go to the temple. Talk less of, even talking. They were all wrapped up. So I am asking myself, if the women here could do it, why can't I? And sometimes we tell ourselves, "Oh, I wish I was in this place. I wish I was a president. I wish I was in the House of Parliament. I was a representative. I was a senator. Maybe if they made me a local government chairman, things would change." But I'm telling you something. Wherever you find yourself, use your voice there. And sometimes we
Absolutely.
as women underrate the power of our voice. I love Esther in the Bible. Now, Esther was one woman that used just her voice to save a whole generation. She wasn't
Mhm.
a member of the king's parliament, but she had a sensitive position that most parliamentary members didn't have. She had her head on the pillow beside the king. So, what is the most vulnerable place that you can get a man to listen to you? Do you know that you don't have to be a president of a country, but as a wife of the president, you can rule a nation?
Mhm. Mhm.
Because there on the pillow, stripped and wearing his pajamas and sometimes nothing, that's when that president is most vulnerable. I'm telling you. I want us to realize the Tabitha that lies within us, that we can control a nation just by placing our head beside the pillow. But you must know that you can use your voice. We place our head beside the pillow. Some nations in this world are being run by women, not because they sit in the boardroom, but because they have their voice in the bedroom. Where can you use your voice? A woman like us stopped a pending war with just her voice, and that was Abigail. Now, how did she do that? Is here in the book. Because she had a whole army of people running down, like aggressive army. These were men that were angry and hungry. A hungry man is an angry man. But right there and then, she was able to stop a pending war with just her voice. So today we have to ask ourselves, how can we use our voice? Now we have any questions? Yes, we can go on because apparently the person that was to come next still have a little bit of a problem with network. So we can have Dr. Louisa all to ourselves. Now there's a question here, Dr.
Yes.
Louisa. So what practical steps can I take to make my voice heard? Where and how do I connect with like-minded people? I left an abusive marriage 7 years ago and I have a few lessons I learned from there. Please, can you take that question?
Thank you so much for the question. Facebook user, I cannot see your name, but this is just magical because I see your message just written on the screen. What practical steps can I take to make my voice heard? And where and how do I connect with like minded people? Sis, Your message activates your tribe. The first place that you can go, have you ever turned on your live button on your Facebook and gotten on your Facebook to be authentic, to say exactly what happened to you? And this is who you are, and you're ready to save other women who are in abusive marriages with the lessons that you learned and nobody listened? You've never tried it before. You can get your voice heard. Of course, you have to brand yourself. That is important. But the point is, there's so many people who are hanging on the streets of social media, just for example, who have the exact same problem, who are not able to speak about it. And the minute that you show up and say to them, so for example, let's look at the story that we had in Nigeria a couple of about the musician that died, right? Osinachi, for example. As soon as this lady passed, so many people showed up and talked about how they're going through the same thing. So many people showed up and talked about how they knew that she was going through an abusive relationship. People owned up to say how many years they were abused for and how they left the relationship because they almost died and this and that and that. If we did not have the story of this woman on the screen, we would never have heard of other women who had experienced that. It's just because we knew that the woman died. It's just because people started talking about it. It's just because the media started painting a picture of how bad it was for you to sit in an abusive marriage. So, sis, how can you get your voice heard? First of all, own who you are. Own who you are, own your story, and be ready to share your story. The minute that I made up my mind and I found my path as a woman leader, a lot of times I'm sitting on the plane and someone starts a conversation. It's a woman who has a problem. How does she know I was there? We're energetic beings. You attract what you need. A lot of times I have conversation with my sister, Coach Heidi, and I said, you know what? I traveled to this place and I saw your people. Why? Because we've been vibrating together on the same piece. And so women show up and it's like, oh my God, you know what? I'm working with women over 40. I said, yes, I'm going to connect you to my sister because that's what she does. So you have to own who you are first. You must own who you are and show up to tell the world. And please do me a favor, get on Facebook and turn on your microphone, turn on your camera, and let people know that your message is about helping women who are in abusive marriages and see how many people are going to respond to that. So that's the best place for you to go. That's the first place. You don't even have to make it fancy. Begin from where you are. Begin to share that. Begin to write about that. Begin to talk about it. Put it on your page, wherever you can communicate with people. Write it out there. Facebook is a free platform. And Instagram, put it out there. The lessons that I learned from my 7 years of marriage, sis, so many people want to hear that. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Auntie. Sister, I call Auntie Louisa. Sister Louisa, I call you everything. My children call you Auntie Louisa, so I'll keep sweeping. So one of the things that I could also advise is because sometimes we feel very uncomfortable to say things to people we don't know.
Mhm.
And so we can start small. And this is how you can start small. Now find a community. There's a safe community. Like Fine Wine community is made up of ladies. So you can start from there to share your story. I and Coach Louisa, we run a program on Clubhouse. I don't know how many of you have joined Clubhouse, but Clubhouse is another place that you can share. So she has a program called Majama's Diary. I have a program called the Renewed Woman Show, and we are on each other's program. Now you can come on such program and tell your story there. If you are not yet ready to go boom into Facebook Live, because there's something that liberates you when you tell your story. When you tell your story and you find somebody send you a text and say, "Thank you so much. I just needed to hear that word from you." that will just ignite your passion, and you realize that, oh my goodness, somebody needs to hear. So connect to communities. Auntie Louisa, Sister Louisa, she runs Majama's Diary. You can, come on Majama's Diary when she's seeing her post. That's why what are you doing with your Facebook? What are you doing there? When you go there, are you just going to look at people and what people are doing? Or are you going there to find your audience and to find your safe place to share your story? So you can come on all this program, share it in a community until, and then once you start sharing it little by little, you will see the passion rise up within you. You get the courage to go full blown and tell your story. Believe me, when you go through the fire and you come out of it, you owe it to humanity. You owe it to God who brought you through, to teach somebody how not to go through that fire. Thank you very much. Now, there's another question from Chinelu, and she said, when fear grips in, when you are determined to arise, how can one handle it?
I love it. Thank you so much, my sister Chinelo. Thank you for joining us. And it's a good question. When fear creeps in, sis, fear is always going to creep in. Fear is not going to stop creeping in. You have to look at fear in the face. Whatever you want to do, get behind me. I rebuke you. Whatever. I don't know what your faith is, but you have to nail it face on, because fear will show up. And always think about it. The law of polarity. What if not? What brings fear? You're thinking, oh my goodness, what if nobody wants to listen to me? But what if somebody will listen to you? You're thinking on this part of it, like, what if I don't succeed? But what if you succeed? It's always an opposite side. So fear is valid. Fear shows that you're human. I'm happy if you feel fear. That means that you're even trying something. There's some people who are just chilling in their comfort zone, and so they don't even know what fear is. Fear means that you are ready to get up, and fear will happen. Sometimes you're going to feel like, oh my goodness, I need someone to validate me. I told you about my story and where I came from. Every single day, you needed somebody to validate you, because whatever you're doing, someone was going to say to you, you're doing the wrong thing. You're saying the wrong thing. Who the heck you think you are? So you always wanted someone to validate you. And until you get to the point where you're comfortable and know that you are enough, whatever that I am about to say is what someone is looking for. Your tribe is not my tribe. My tribe is not Coach Ida's tribe. We all have different messages. And so your tribe will cling to you. My sheep hear my voice. So there's no point of you being afraid. And sometimes what causes fear is comparison. We're thinking, oh, maybe I should be a certain way before I open my mouth. No, wherever that you find yourself, starting small, there is someone right there who wants to hear it. There's someone. Remember what I shared with you? When I was in South Africa, I said I didn't know anybody, but someone showed up at 3 a.m. She needed me. That was my tribe. That was for me. She didn't hear it from somebody else. She could only hear it from me. So when fear steps in front of you, look at fear in front, head on, and speak to that thing that you're afraid of. Another thing you can do is create affirmations. What are you afraid of? Are you afraid of losing? Create an affirmation. I am a winner. I am Chinelo. I can do this. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, if you're a person of faith. I am powerful. I can do it. I will succeed. As I step out to put this post out, it's going to be accepted. Whatever that it is that your fear, it can be different from my fear. We all have our fears, but we have to spend time with the fear. And of course, if you've been hanging around Coach Ida for a while, she'll talk to you about PTP. Sometimes you might have to dwell on your fear. You might have to be still and meditate on the fear. So do whatever you have to do, that different options for you. You can meditate on it. You could use affirmations. You can step out there and just speak to your fear and try it. Fall, that's fine, but build your wings on the way down. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I always like to say that there are two spiritual currencies: fear and faith. Fear and faith. And both of them that believe. You know, when the Bible says everything is possible to them that believe, now the currency of belief, there are two of them: fear and faith. So now you should realize, which currency do you want to spend? Is it fear or faith? Because whichever way, we are all going to spend these two currencies. Now, if you are afraid of doing something good, that means it's a very good thing. I call it the terror barrier. The terror barrier is that period in your life when you want to do something. The terror barrier is that period in Normie, Ruth, and Oprah's in, whole story. When they got to that place and Normie says, go back, one woman decided to step over that terror barrier and keep going. And immediately you cross that terror barrier of fear, you are flying. And that was Normie. But that same terror barrier, one person decided to leave that terror barrier of fear and go back to her pain. So when you are afraid to do something, just know that you have come to that place called a terror barrier. And the decision you make is either going to make you fly or make you go back and become that pillar of salt. And what I mean by pillar of salt is going back to that comfort zone and just being there, not moving to anywhere, no change. There can be no change without crossing that terror barrier of fear. Thank you so much, Coach Louisa. We have another question from a Facebook user. I said, your voice, your power. Is it okay? Sorry, I have to take this one. It was here first. It's from Ellen. How can we teach our young ladies to have the courage to use their voice to advocate for themselves?
Thank you so much, Ellen. It's great to have you here on the session with us. How can we teach our young ladies to have courage to use their voice to advocate for themselves? You see, that's such an interesting question. And I must say that it is so important that we teach the young girls. That's the first thing. So it's a very important question. I'm going to use myself as an example. I love to use personal examples. So just so that you don't think that certain people just kind of dropped from the sky and it worked out for them. It's going to be difficult. It's not going to be an easy process, especially if you're being brought up in a patriarchal society, for example. Young girls, a lot of times, even older ladies do not even have a voice, talk of the young girls. But it's important that we let them know that their voices are valid. I saw a video, I think yesterday, that was being circulated because of the killings. I don't know if you saw that, sis. The killings that is happening in the United States, children were being killed, shot down. And I saw this young girl who was from Congo descent, and she was talking about, challenging the leaders, that who are the leaders? She doesn't think she has any leaders. She doesn't trust them. She doesn't trust the police. And, and this video was being circulated. Of course, people had different opinions about that. You could hear someone in the background saying, why would you be so disrespectful? No, I don't think so. It's important that the young girls begin to use their voice, because that will reduce a lot of discrimination. It will reduce abuse. What you can do for them is teaching them their rights. How can you encourage them? By teaching them what their rights are. Sometimes we don't even know what our rights are. Yesterday, we're in a session, even though we're talking about, sexual experiences, and so many of us have grown up with some kind of conditioning, and we think that that is right. You're sure you've been brought up with, your mom says, oh, you have to cover your private part. You can't do this, you can't do that. There's so much you can't, even in the churches or religious institutions, if you're not a Christian. And so because of that, you grow up thinking, I shouldn't do anything, I shouldn't say anything. And sometimes, like in the African setting, before you open your mouth, it's like, shh, your mom says, shh. So when it's time for you to actually say something that's going to help you, you think it's going to be the wrong thing. So we need to encourage the young people the young girls, for example, that if you do not speak up, nobody will understand their pain. And how can they do it? By practicing. They have to practice. Yes, sometimes I remember being a child, you could say something and someone smacks you. Yeah, that's part of it. But you have to say, try it again next time. When people know that you're not a pushover, you try it the first time, they smack you, you try it the second time, someday someone is going to listen. So they have to start using their voice. And affirmations are so important. They have to learn how to speak to themselves. Speak to yourselves, sis. Speak to yourself. So many of us are just so ladylike and just like, oh my God, I don't do certain things. Listen, if you see me in my bathroom in the morning, you're probably going to think I'm crazy, but that's just me. Speak to yourself. Tell yourself what you want to do, because you're like a garden. Plant what you want in you. You have the power to do it. Anyways.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for
I know
that.
we had another question, sis.
Yes, we're taking another
Another
questions now.
question.
Yes, we do. And it says, your voice, your power. Is it possible to have a voice without a power?
Yes, we all have a voice. I'm speaking to you right now. As long as your voice is not creating change, it's powerless.
Mm.
Your voice must be creating change. It must be changing someone's life. There has to be a reason why you were created. You are not here to just occupy space. The minute you're not doing anything to make the world a better place, your voice is powerless. So you have to ask yourself that question. Am I doing something to make the world a better place? A lot of people talk about, for example, Africa, said, oh, the Africa we want. Who's going to create the Africa you want? You have to create the Africa you want. And what are you going to do in your own space, in your tiny capacity? What have you done? What are you open to do to create the Africa that you want? You can't push it for the leaders. We It looks like we lost connection. Our
Yeah,
leaders
we're back.
have failed us over and over again. We cannot trust the leaders again. And so you have to do your own beat. I told you about how I was in Rwanda and I went to the memorial and I saw all of these dead bodies. And what came to mind for me is, Louisa, you have work to do, because there are children who don't know where their parents are. Their children who lost their parents, their children who lost their family members, the children, some of the kids will have to marry themselves without even knowing it's their brother, because they didn't know. The genocide bumped into them when they were kids. And so they're in different parts of the world. You and I have work to do. So what can you do in your own tiny capacity? It's not about being placed in a certain place, but how can you use your voice, sis? How can you use your voice? How can you, facilitate community advocacy? What message do you have? Have you called 2 or 3 people together to share your message with them? Are you part of a church? Have you tried to share your message with them? Have you used Facebook to share your message with people? So if your voice is not creating change, it is powerless. I hope that helps.
Woo, thank you so much, Coach Louisa. We love you. Always having you here to speak with us at any time is a blessing. And I know a lot of people have been blessed. Yes, some people are dancing, some people are saying it's interesting. So Ellen said it's good to be here, sees. Chinelu says, thank you so much. We thank you from the bottom of our heart. Thank you for releasing our voice, and God bless you.
Bless you too. Thank you so much, sis. Thank you, everyone.
All right, ladies. So we are going into our next session, okay, very shortly. Maybe we'll just break for a minute or so and we'll go right into our next session. We have Coach Omaomi. Omaomi was coming to talk to us about Women Evolve, how to rebrand yourself, how to brand yourself. So she has been delayed. That's why we kept going with Coach Louisa, but we are going to go to the next session right away. And I'm hoping that she is ready. I have to put a call to her, but thank you so much for participating in this session. We still have 2 more sessions to go. We have Omaomi, and then we have Ugo. She's going to come and talk to us on how to release the greatness that lies within you. And finally, by 7 p.m., I'm inviting everyone. I'm going to post the link on the Life Fine Wine group on Zoom for the book launch of Tabitha Arise. Again, if you have not pre-ordered that, this book is right now is 3,005. After now is going to be 5,000. After today, you can pre-order it, and this is the account details for you to pre-order this book. It is why would I want to blow my own trumpet? But I know that it's amazing. It took me a while to write it, and it's a powerful book. The Holy Spirit gave me so much inspiration while writing this book. So pre-order this book, and I invite you by 7 p.m. for the book launch. Until I see you in the next five. It's almost time for the next session. So let's just go out, and I'm going to bring in the next guest. Take care. Thank you for joining me, and see you shortly.